criminal justice system has been subject to a continuous threat, as well as sabotage, which has been with us over an extended period.
This is a watershed moment for South Africa.
I'm glad that someone in the leadership ranks is literally willing to place possibly his own life on the line for the benefit of the country.
One can only hope as a South African individual that we start to see the results coming to fruition, because we need some change.
If the allegations are proved to be true, that spells doom for South Africa's criminal justice.
Testimony at the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry, very much in sharp focus. It's topical, and it starts right now. A very good evening to you, South Africa, those watching around the world. My name is Blaine Herman, and this is It's Topical, our digital audience joining us tonight. There they are. Thank you very much indeed. Looking forward to their interactions with our guests in a short while. Explosive, bombshell. Some of the adjectives used to describe the testimony of KwaZulu-Natal Police Commissioner Lt Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi. The alleged infiltration of or exertion of undue influence on the criminal justice system. And you heard what the chair of the commission had to say on day one of the hearings. If the allegations are proven true, that spells doom for South Africa's criminal justice system. It's a stark statement, right? Doesn't get more serious than this. You've heard testimony about the political killings task team and about allegations of a criminal syndicate. It's still early days, given the evidence that is being put forward. It needs to be tested. It's not our job to litigate the merits of the evidence being put forward. It's our job to provide you context, to provide you with perspective. On Monday, the National Police Commissioner, General Fani Masamula, will take to the stand. He's the next witness, 9:30 p.m. What can we expect? We will discuss. It leads us to the question of the week, and we ask you, what are your thoughts on Lieutenant General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi's explosive testimony at the Madlanga Commission? Is it explosive? Let us know your thoughts at SABC News_TV. Let's walk and talk, get you some context as always. What sort of picture is being painted from 3 days of testimony, right? And with that being said, what sort of bearing will Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi's testimony have on the criminal justice system? We'd love to hear your thoughts on this at SABC News_TV. Perspective coming up. All right, let's get you some context, and as always, let's turn to the magic wall, what we know and why it matters. My guest tonight is Professor Kholofelo Rakubu, a criminologist. Thank you so much indeed, Prof, for joining us. She's from the Tshwane University of Technology. You were present there in Pretoria, witnessing this firsthand. What stood out for you over 3 days?
The explosive allegations it was. What stood out for me is the allegations around deep-seated corruption within our justice cluster. What stood out for me is the possibility of the prosecution not doing what is expected to do. What also stood out is the fact that this is not only Mkhwanazi's work. It's a collaborative effort where men and women in blue within the SAPS will be coming to forth to corroborate all this. And also what stood forth is the magnitude of political relationship and infiltration within our justice cluster.
It stood out for you,
Yes.
but was it shocking?
It wasn't shocking. Remember, we've been on multiple platforms asking or analyzing why South Africa not winning the battle against crime. So those were some of the critical reasons as to why do we have beautiful policies in place but not winning the battle against crime. We keep on taking top positions internationally when it comes to crime. These are some of the critical issues that lead us there.
What do you make of him as a witness, as a person that is giving evidence?
First day, he was very confident. The sequence of documentation and understanding of the processes, and I think he met the commission halfway, and he knows his story, if I were to say so, because he was taken back and forth. He could relate, he could easily talk to, and he could easily take South Africa through the passage to explain which office implicated and how.
Right. So this is basically a version that we've created from what was already presented by the KZN Police Commissioner, and it talks to his idea of the state of play. What sort of picture is he trying to sketch here?
The picture is that as much as we think we have a political head as a minister, he paints a picture that no, we've got a businessman as a minister. The infiltration is deeper than we think. So decisions are taken outside offices, and the political infiltration is much deeper. So here decisions were communicated unprofessionally, so certain individuals had an opportunity to tap into critical information and utilize it recklessly. So this deeper connection also exposes the level of compromise which victims have been into, because all these men identified here at some point had to threaten or scare victims, according to Mkhwanazi. But all this evidence will have to be tested, because the aim of the commission is to see to it whatever he paints here makes sense. For the commission to have an easier day is when there's admissible evidence. So far he tried, but we're still waiting for more witnesses to come and corroborate, because it cannot be one-man show.
Right, that's an important point. The next witness, the National Police Commissioner, Fani Masemola, coming up tomorrow. Do you expect him to corroborate a lot of those, what Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi presented?
From Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi's testimony, he will have to corroborate. He will have to make sense of some of the statements made there. His office was mentioned quite often. His decision as well was mentioned quite often. So he has to come in and corroborate, because he's also part of the witnesses, right? And remember, we have multiple phases, and he comes into a very critical phase, which is testimonies. Meaning here, these are people that will give evidence that talks to what Mkhwanazi has provided. These are people that are going to substantiate more, that are going to assist South Africa understand the magnitude of issues. Detectives will be telling us of the issues that hindered effective service delivery, as much as prosecutors that were also threatened, and Masemola's decisions questioned or undermined at some point. So this phase one will have to bring us to that.
Do we expect Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi to come back to defend some of these allegations or counter-allegations that are being put forward?
Remember, phase two is very critical, and phase two will have people that are going to rebuke some of his allegations. Therefore, he has to come back to analyze and explain and counter-explain some of the evidence, because this evidence that he has provided, phase one, phase two's responsibility is to test it. And how do you test it? You go deeper, you unpack, right? Then now you invite those people that are implicated in the phase one, and those people will have to utilize multiple platforms to disagree. Some might even implicate self in that stage, and there will be also cross-examination. Phase one, he provided statements, he gave a testimony. We're not saying it's correct. Cross-examination will have to take him through multiple directions to do what? To assist with the evidence testing process. Then we can go to phase three as well. He is also critical in phase three, because he has to be cross-examined. Then when he goes to phase three, that is when he will be recalled to verify phase one and phase two as well. And also key witnesses will have to be recalled to substantiate, to corroborate, to question, to go deeper into all that should have been mentioned in phase one, phase two. Then phase three should just sum up all.
Seemingly, he's not only critical in this commission. There's another process that's also underway, the Parliamentary Ad Hoc Committee. Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi said that he's going to meet the evidence leaders on Thursday, Friday. No date exactly as yet.
Yes.
From our perspective, in terms of when he's going to testify there, what do you make of that process running along this one?
Looking into the history of commissions, I think this time we needed a parallel commission that might assist with what? Should this commission not deliver as expected? Should there be pitfalls within these commissions? Because remember, all other commissions had their own pitfalls. Then this parallel commission might even assist where this commission is going to deliver, so that now if we don't get something here, we'll get something on the other side.
Right.
And parallel commissions also put pressure on this Madlanga Commission to see to it that they do thorough job, which we're not questioning, but there will be a parallel commission whose findings are very critical as well, because they must talk to this one. Should they not talk to these ones, then that is when we have a problem. At some point, South Africans should receive a holistic view of this, of these allegations, because should these allegations be true, we are honestly in trouble. We might have missed the bus, because according to these allegations, we are ruled somewhere, decisions are taken somewhere, political infiltrations is deeper than we think, and it looks like even our constitution led to us to where we are, because phase one, Mkhwanazi took us to section 207 of the constitution, which is a bit problematic with overstepping of the minister's executive role on the national commissioner's roles.
It's going to be important to understand, it's a good point, what can we learn from other commissions as well? We've got Advocate Carol Steinberg, who was part of the Nugent Commission, as you would remember. In terms of that commission, in terms of the Zondo Commission, in our pursuit of the truth, what can we learn from there? We'll touch base. Prof, I want you to stick around with us. I know your better mind will help us break down these issues. That's Professor Kholofelo Rakubu, the criminologist from the Tshwane University of Technology. We will discuss further in a short while, but we want your thoughts. Our regular Word on the Street feature, we took to various streets of Johannesburg seeking diverse insights and perspectives on this topic, and this is what people had to say. Take a look.
I agree with everything that he has said thus far. We need accountability. We need to protect the interests of South Africans against criminality.
The historical commission is still not yielding the results, the litigation that really should be necessary. One can only hope as a South African individual that we start to see the results coming to fruition, because we need some change.
For Mkhwanazi, I'm saying big ups. He must continue exposing it, and I'm not sure if he's going to succeed, because the corruption is the people that are holding power.
I mean, at this moment, it's still 50-50 because we had other commissions before. So it's very important that this one is seen through. So we'll see how it goes.
We are very much impressed with his bravery to take this issue on his hand. This is something that is not affecting only him as a police officer and his responsibilities. All South Africans are affected, and we hope if necessary steps are taken, and unlike those commissions that came before it, the recommendations are implemented.
This is a watershed moment for South Africa. It's very serious. It's very important that we as citizens know that those that we entrust with the authority to protect us and to protect our sovereignty will do the right thing.
Really appreciate your thoughts on this matter. We've got the better minds, as we call them, on the program to give us perspective. Let me introduce them to you. Advocate Carol Steinberg, who was the lead advocate of the Commission of Inquiry into SARS, the Nugent Commission, back in 2019. Thank you so much indeed for joining us. Professor Sipho Seepe, Political Analyst, appreciate your time. And good Prof. Rakubu, Criminologist from the Tshwane University of Technology, still with us. Our digital audience as well, please, we'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Your questions for our guests, raise those virtual hands and I'll get you on the program, get your take on this matter. Advocate, maybe I can start with you. The judiciary, even prior to this, not spared in terms of serious allegations. What do you think is the immediate consequence of such allegations on the judiciary?
Well, I think that if the country can't trust the judiciary, we're in deep trouble. Then the rule of law is really jeopardized. And there have been other attempts to put the integrity of the judiciary in doubt, but there's never really been any evidence. And that's the big question here. There have been a lot of allegations made, but there hasn't been any evidence yet. So we wait and see.
Right.
If there isn't evidence, then it's deeply irresponsible thing to do, to make South Africans question whether they can trust our courts. If those allegations have evidence, then it's terribly important that any corruption in the judiciary is isolated and rooted out.
Right. Professor Seepe, from what has come out over the last 3 days or so, in terms of evidence put forward from the Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi, were you convinced?
Well, if you listen to him, he tried to make a case for the claims that he made and went through all the areas that he felt that are areas of concern. He talked about the parliamentarians who might be interfering with the criminal justice system. He talked about senior police officers who are seen to be working against, and they also pointed out certain patterns that should actually worry us. He also talked about the magistrate, and it's also important here that we must be very careful about trying to suggest that the entire criminal justice system is corrupt or wrong. What we have are individuals, and so he dealt with those individuals as examples. And then what was also difficult about his presentation was always to say, so and so will elaborate further.
Right.
So effectively, the picture he was painting was more drawing at the canvas to say these will be areas that will have to be covered, which is also important from the perspective of him saying, I'm not a lone ranger. This is part of a collective. We worked on this. And where there may be some areas where he might have read too much into people. For instance, the manner in which he was talking about classified information that some people had, whether that holding that at that point in time, for instance, for somebody like Dan Kholofelo, whether that constitutes something so serious, we need to be able to look at the magnitude of errors of commission and omission that people may fall into. There are some areas where there's, I mean, for instance, when you talk about the judiciary, there are some judgments that we as citizens must also question. Because if we don't question, then we start treating members of the judiciary as if they are infallible. But at the same time, it is too early for us to start saying they are actually corrupt. What we should be able to say is that there are certain decisions that calls into question. And this is why we also have a system where there will be appeals, etc. But in the end, we need to have institutions that we can trust. And I think sometimes with the questioning, it also puts a pressure on the people to understand that ultimately the law must also serve the people. It cannot serve itself. As I say, also the Constitution exists for us. We don't exist for the Constitution. So it's very important that we end up having faith and confidence in the structures that we've put in terms of the resolution of a dispute. You also mentioned the issue of the role of the media. That and when you listen to him carefully, he says there are also certain journalists who can be called upon to push a particular narrative. So effectively, this commission is so important in the sense that if we do not trust the criminal justice system, then we cannot even talk about justice.
Well, Prof, I'll come to you in a short while, but advocate, trust in this commission per se is going to be very important as well. There are certain cases that Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi mentioned that are before courts of law. How important is it for this commission not to litigate those cases while this commission is carrying on?
That's terribly important. A commission is not a court of law. And the commission itself and the public understanding and bearing in mind the difference at all times is very important. The major difference is that a commission makes recommendations, nothing more than that. And it's only as effective as the people to whom the recommendations are made do something with it.
Right.
It has inherent value. The public hearing testimony, people being held accountable in public, has its own value.
Right.
South Africans can never unhear what they heard at the Zondo Commission. That's now part of our history, and that's important. But the other really important part of the commission that I learned from Justice Nugent is that as lawyers and judges, we are used to playing quite a passive role, where two advocates bring their clients to court, they bring their evidence, and the judge sits and adjudicates. He listens to the facts, or she listens to the facts, and then applies the law. The role of a commission of inquiry is to find the facts.
Right.
And they've got to be as active and careful and thorough as possible. Not just to listen to the people who come forward,
Yes.
but to go and find anyone who can prove or disprove what's being said.
Right. There's various variables when a commission of inquiry is so public and in full glare of public opinion, or the court of a public opinion becomes important aspect. Facts and evidence, no doubt, will move the needle one way or another. But I wonder the optics of everything, the confidence in which Lieutenant General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi answers the questions or puts forward his case. Does that hold sway in any way other than in the public space?
I don't think it does. The Commission has mechanisms in place, whether you are confident or not. What matters is how you provide evidence. You can put statements out there, but what will assist the Commission delivers is when there's admissible evidence. Remember, the team is comprised of a forensic analyst, for example, and there was also presentation of your WhatsApp messages, which shows the magnitude of the work that the Commission has to do to verify certain facts. So whether you are confident or not, what should speak, what should make sense, what should assist, arrive at actionable recommendations is evidence, which is what most South Africans have been asking for. Admissible evidence.
Yeah.
Hearsays will not assist, and we're hoping the witnesses that would come forth will deliver in the sense that there will be evidence, because like Prof. Seepe has mentioned, he kept on referring to certain individuals that are very critical as witnesses. Should they come in, they should corroborate or talk to what he has said. One should not come in and look like they are withdrawing or conflicting, because that will really redirect the focus at the moment.
The demeanor, Prof, the optics of it all, is it consequential?
It is important that somebody who gives evidence speaks from a position of conviction, not trying to be cunning. And when you saw the general, his statement, he was being consistent. When he was asked a question, he'll go back. He was very clear about what he's complaining about, and able to give examples and give what you call evidence. But it is also important that we must also realize that it is also possible that what he presents, it's a plausible explanation. And somebody could come looking at the same facts and present a different plausible explanation. So this is where the triangulation of a number of testimonies becomes very important, to say between these statements that seem to be giving an explanation. Which one is most likely to be true?
Right.
And but he did come out as somebody who is credible in terms of his story.
Right.
It is only when other people come in and present a different picture that we'll be able to say, well, he has made this case. But what is important about this process is really about trying to find. Remember the whole idea of commissions being almost giving recommendations. It's also important because it leads to a situation where people are not overly guarded,
right,
where people feel free. But as soon as you have a sense where there'll be prosecution attached to it, you may not likely to get, people will be too guarded. So, but our intention is really to understand how to avoid these problems that continue to afflict society.
A long drawn out commission, advocate, has its challenges, especially from what Professor Seepe is saying, is that people are listening to this in real time and maybe, already formulating an opinion after 3 days or so. That is the challenge to, I guess, having a holistic approach and get to that answers that we need at a pace that I think talks to the whole process of justice. What have we learned from other commissions in this regard, the Zondo-Nugent Commission?
Yeah, I agree with you. The pace counts a lot. Firstly, the president wants the recommendations quickly. And the country, the allegations are so critical that nobody wants to spend a few years waiting for a report. There's no doubt. I think the way the Commission chooses to organise its evidence does have a big impact. At the moment, the public is seeing unchallenged evidence. And the Commission could have done some more work, and as Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi testified, could have been putting other versions to him. It's a choice. Those are the choices they had to make.
What do you make about the current choice of not doing that?
I think there's a perfectly logical sequence of events where you have the allegations put, the people who are going to counter them and implicated, and then bring the person making the allegations back. I do wonder about the alternative though, where the public isn't left with a sense that this man isn't challenged, that it's all true, that perhaps there could have already been other pieces of evidence, or a sense where the Lieutenant General might be able to back something up or might not be able to back something up.
Prof?
Yeah, well, the issue of time is very important. And having listened to a number of areas that the Lieutenant General covered, I thought the President might have been very ambitious and the Commission to think that within 3 months you'll be able to do this. If the sequence is such that after there have been allegations against certain people, those people are going to be called, then it is not going to take 3 months before they start coming up with the first report. But what is important is that South Africans are participating. So it will be something as if they were in a corner and nobody. I do think that our people will probably have a certain degree of tolerance because they are participating as it unfolds. We need to also to make it understood that these things are much more complex. And there are some areas where he himself had to go and say, let me look at this, and so will come in. So we're still going to have the people who are going to corroborate, or the people that he says, these are the people who worked with me in terms of making these assertions. And they will elaborate. So if you put time into that, 3 months of a new report is very unlikely. And unfortunately, we run the risk of putting too much pressure on the Commission. Yes, we would like to see the recommendations come quickly and action. But I do think that we should more err on the side of fairness and justice than on retribution.
May I say something more about time? One of the differences between a court and a commission is that if something isn't put on the record in court, it doesn't exist. It's not like that in a commission. And one of the differences between the Zondo Commission and the Nugent Commission was that in the Zondo Commission, everything was publicly put on the record. In the Nugent Commission, that wasn't the case. There were many affidavits, sworn affidavits, statements that were not put on the record, but formed part of the evidence of the commission.
Oh.
And that meant things could go much faster. There was careful selection as to what was most important to show the country,
Right.
and the kind of more boring or more sensitive stuff could be just accepted underneath that.
I know I need to take a break, but Prof. Rakubu, what's the danger of that? What's the risk of that when the public doesn't have a full picture of what's being presented?
Remember, with this commission, like Prof said, the South Africa is part of it. The danger of it is they're already making conclusions and they already have a summary of recommendations for the commission.
Yes.
The danger is when the commission does not see it the way South Africans are seeing it, or the way South Africans are concluding, because it's the field day tomorrow as well. People will be taking notes and reading each and every sentence to verify and check if it corroborates what what General Mkhwanazi has said. So it's a very difficult one. But with time as well, I agree with my colleagues here, too ambitious, because certain possible weaknesses might even be identified tomorrow should there be another name dropping like it was last week. So what then we might not reach target, but the president is looking for a report which is ambitious, and we do not want vague recommendations or vague conclusions. We want actionable recommendations which will require time. Let's say tomorrow 5 more names are mentioned. What then? Are we still going to compact everything fast to suit political decisions or political agenda? That becomes very difficult, but we will see.
Important point. A digital audience, I know you're burning to get your questions in. We're going to come to you in a short while. We need to take a quick break. More discussion next. Welcome back. You're watching It's Topical. We are talking about the testimony, 3 days of testimony from the KwaZulu-Natal Police Commissioner, Lieutenant General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi. What do you make of it? Let us know at SABC News_TV. But we're also going to throw forward to what we can expect this week as well, with the National Police Commissioner taking the stand tomorrow 9:30. We'll discuss that in a short while. Let's go to our guests, our digital audience rather. Hands up already. I see him. Paul, let's talk to you. Your question, comments for our guests.
Hi, Blaine. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear. Go ahead.
Perfect. I think I'm less concerned with the content of the commission and more concerned with the results. I think we underestimate South Africans' ability to quickly grow apathetic to things, right? We have seen many a commission over the years. We've had the Madlanga Commission, we've had the Zondo, the Madlanga, the Nugent one that you just spoke about. And I think the most frustrating thing about them is that because the commission cannot specifically act, they just have to give recommendations. We have to trust and believe that the government is eventually going to act on those recommendations, right? Which is a problem because we have seen previously that they sometimes don't. And so,
and it's not legally binding, right? The recommendations are not legally binding.
Right? So this is a fact-finding mission, yes, that is displayed for everybody to see. But the problem with that is people get to see what is being spoken about. People get to see the evidence that is being presented. But then they also see the government not taking action, which then goes back to now public trust. That, okay, we get to see these commissions that happen every once in a while, but what relevance do they have when people know what is happening, but there's no action taken to reinforce that public trust, right? And I think public opinion is so important, specifically in this case, because South Africans complain about crime every day. South Africans know just how much corruption affects them, specifically when it comes to the judicial branch. You know, they know how much corruption happens there because these are things that they get to deal with on a daily basis. So what Mkhwanazi said isn't anything new besides dropping some role players that people probably didn't expect to know of. you know. But because no information is being brought, one thing that South Africans are now hinging on is whether or not the commission is actually going to. And at this point, the facts don't even matter to South Africans, right? They just want to see action taken to prove that our government can, in fact, crack down on crime as they say they do. And then another problem is because commissions can get drawn out, they're very expensive. And so taxpayers have to see this process being displayed on TV, knowing that that's where they are going, and also knowing that there isn't a legally binding or a guaranteed reaction that's going to come from the government. It could take years for any of the recommendations to be implemented, or they could just not be implemented at all, you know. So I think right now we're focused, most people at least are least focused on the content of the commission itself, but the results of it. They want to see what the government is going to do this time, as of what they did with the previous commissions. They want to see if the results are going to be. They want to see if the act.
The end game becomes very important. Professor Seepe, I mean, when we're talking about these allegations and the names of certain politicians that were mentioned already in the past 3 days, did you expect more names to be dropped?
Oh, definitely. I mean, Mkhwanazi pointed out that the history has a number of people who are going to corroborate it. And what he gave was the high level. So those people will start being much more clearer and will put names. But the concern that South Africans have is really that why is so much money wasted on this commission when in the end, I mean, we've seen already some of the recommendations of the Zono Commission being thrown out by a political party, simply saying all the people that were implicated, we see nothing wrong with it. And if you can have a ruling party making that statement, what are the possibilities of there being prosecution? And this is what South Africans do not want. They simply want to say, let us see, at least if there could be some even reform in terms of how we conduct our affairs. But we seem to be seeing this as a way in which we take something that is hot and put it in the commission, and then we continue with our lives. But what is difficult about this particular one is also something that Mkhwanazi says. He says, if you look at some of the statements that I make, I'm going to go so far and no further because they are part of the ongoing investigations. So you have a parallel to this investigative process, but you also have Parliament that is also going to be having its own business. So effectively what you are going to have here is really how do we make sure that these are not, they talk to each other, they're not working against each other. That is the major concern.
Let's go back to our digital audience. Molatela, let's hear from you.
Good evening, Blaine. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear. Go ahead.
All right. I think South Africa is on a knife edge. Let's start there. South Africa is on a knife edge because the damning, testimony that Lieutenant Mkhwanazi gave just shows that South Africa has had a culture of impunity and a culture of patron-clientism that has hollowed out the South African or the state's ability to protect the citizens. So that is my first concern. And the other one is that, during his testimony, he really just confirmed that, we are not unsafe by accident. South Africans are unsafe by design because the structures and the measures that have been put in place to protect South Africans are in turn protecting political leaders as well as the same criminals that we are supposed to be protected from. And I understand that all of these, this whole testimony needs to be challenged. However, we are on the ground. We see this every day. The crime is so high, and when you go to a police station and you open a case, against people who are influential, most of the time the case really rarely goes anywhere. So my question really is, why should ordinary South Africans continue trusting these commissions to bring about change when we've had commissions before this that haven't really yielded any progress?
Thanks, Molitela. I'll put that to my panel in a short while. I want to speak to Michelle and then Dimakatso and Funeka. Michelle, to you first.
Thank you so much, Blaine. I think I'm definitely going to just echo what the rest of the panel has said and my fellow digital audience. Mkhwanazi's testimony really does reflect three core issues. I think firstly, institutional collapse that's eroding the justice system's ability to function. Secondly, operational sabotage, where investigations seem to be constantly actively undermined. And then lastly, political complicity, which points to a systematic capture of state security issues. And I think what is quite dangerous is that these warnings come at a time when citizens are really very cynical and, with many recalling that the extensive recommendations of past commissions have not been meaningfully implemented. And this history of limited follow-through lowers expectations that this commission will actually lead to genuine reform.
Yeah.
Raising the risk that his testimony is viewed as a further confirmation of state failure rather than a catalyst for accountability. What I think is really important is that this testimony should be read less as an isolated grievance and more as a signal of systematic crisis. The analytical challenge, I think, moving forward is twofold. Firstly, verifying that these claims that have been made are met with hard evidence. And secondly, assessing whether oversight mechanism, whether they be parliamentary, judicial, or internal, are capable of enforcing accountability. Last, I think the bottom line is that without reform and political will, the risks that he outlined can very well crystallize into long-term institutional failure. But the bigger question is how do we make sure that this doesn't happen, not just with this commission, but with every commission moving forward. Thank you.
Good point. Michelle, thank you very much indeed. Dimakatso, let's hear from you, then Funeka.
Thank you very much, Blaine. And I think mine quite literally does not want to isolate how this commission looks at the moment, particularly to what it means. If we look at the period of detail that General Mkhwanazi has given us, starts from 2011. And we have had a commission that looks into state capture or the state of capture, given the report by the former public protector, Prof. Thuli Madonsela. So we at a point where we're facing a commission that is going to give us a copy of recommendations that we already sit with. For instance, Michelle just recently spoke about oversight mechanisms from Parliament. The Zondo Commission recommends exactly just that. But when we look into detail from and I'm very careful into saying this, into detail as to what the 3-day testimony of General Mkhwanazi has stated, and we look into some events that have transpired in the past few years, for instance, the 2021 July unrest, and one of the South African Human Rights Commission's reports that details the findings on why we've had such a delayed response from our intelligence system and security within South Africa is that there were vacant positions within intelligence. And General Mkhwanazi speaks exactly to that. So I think my question is then to Advocate Steinberg as to what exactly, how do we avoid duplication of recommendations in this process? Because there could be nothing provided to South Africa, Parliament and the judiciary itself, that will be new, that hasn't been provided by the Zondo Commission, for example, as to what should be happening, where is the problem, and how should it be dealt with. So we're just providing a copy and paste of that, and that's particularly where my fear is that the fact-finding mission is trying to find facts that are already out there in the public.
Good point. We'll put that to the panel in a short while. Let me hear from Funeka. We'll take a break and then we'll get a response. Funeka?
So I think Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi's allegations are obviously huge, and it feels unlikely that someone would make such explosive allegations and cause so much disruption in South Africa all for nothing. That seems like an awfully large hill to die on for nothing. And that said, and given also what was discussed about how commissions only make recommendations and it's up to the people in government to make use of these recommendations, I think my question is, will we see a restructuring of the criminal justice system or any people or removal or replacements of any people within the criminal justice system, particularly in higher ranking positions, in order to sort of fix whatever it is that's going on? Because as was also stated, there's clearly a lack of efficiency in fighting crime in South Africa. There's clearly a weakness there.
Yeah.
And regardless of whether or not the allegations turn out to be true, surely there should be some sort of restructuring that takes place. And I just want to know if we'll see that.
Thank you very much indeed. I'm going to put it to my panel in a short while. We need to take a quick break. We want to hear from you as well. What did you make of the 3 days of testimony? What's your expectations coming up tomorrow when the National Commissioner will take the stands? More next. Welcome back. You're watching It's Topical. Let's get you some answers, some very important questions from our digital audience with regards to possible recommendations that will be made from this commission. Let's go to Advocate Steinberg. Look, there's skepticism regarding recommendations. People don't want a duplication of past commissions as well. The follow-through becomes very important here. The I word again, implementation as well. How do we get away from, we're down this road again?
Well, the smaller part to that answer is that the Commission needs to make very targeted, specific, doable recommendations. Not write a history book, not philosophize, but I recommend so-and-so is fired for the following reasons. And that's up to the Commission.
Yeah.
The bigger part of that answer is the political will on the President and those who are also involved in the decision-making to act on it.
Right.
I think the frustration with the Zondo Commission is largely that many of the recommendations remain recommendations. And it seems to me that the executive should tell the public why they don't implement certain recommendations or do. But the process of accountability should carry on there once the public's been through this. May I say that with the Nugent Commission, every single recommendation except for one has been implemented. And it's why SARS is a strong organization today. After 3 months, Justice Nugent told the President in an interim report that regardless of any other evidence he hears, the current Commissioner must lose his job. And the President acted quickly. And as a result, the SARS was uncaptured. And we have a good revenue collection service today.
Prof. Rakubu, you confident that we can get to parallels from the Nugent Commission regarding this commission?
I am not, because the critical state institution security cluster is implicated. Will there be political will to take decisions? This will be the first of its kind. This will be an opportunity for the President to win over South Africans that are questioning and have been questioning his responses or his activities around this particular matter. Because remember, they expected swift response and it looked like something else. But now with these recommendations, wherein South Africans are on it, it's an opportunity for the ruling party as well to make sure that all, but I doubt, because the political infiltration, the policy issues that are not clear on executive powers. Hence, we have been having most overstepping and abuse of power when it comes to the roles of the minister, what kind of directive the minister can give to the national commissioner, and how to avoid the infiltration and abuse of power. That is not clear.
We've heard talk of ministers, former ministers. Prof. Seepe, what is the immediate political ramifications of this testimony?
I think we should go back to the statement of July the 6th. That statement was a cry for help. What the commissioner was saying, Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi. He says there's such a serious criminality, such a serious interference, such a serious corruption that I've taken upon myself to talk to South Africans.
Yes.
So we need to understand that part. And he says, when he says there's interference, he says that there are already cases that are being frustrated. And what he has done is to put it before us that these are clear cases where there is interference. So on the basis of what is already there, it is possible to indicate, to say, but these are people who are implicated and they should be brought quicker to bring a counter narrative to what he has actually presented, and the president must be able to move quite fast. But here's a trick. It assumes that the president himself is innocent. And the question is, given what Mkhwanazi had actually said, where he suggests that in a matter that involved a mine in Richards Bay, when he had deployed certain people and he decided to say, no, these people are not doing what we expect, we're not getting value for money, I withdraw them. Then he was told, he says, I got a call, and I've seen that at least some of the media have captured that element, that what do you do when you have a situation where it is suggested that the president himself might, or the presidency, that's a word that they used, might have had an interest in something like that. This is where the notion of political will comes in. Hence, we need to start thinking about, are we really going to end up with a situation like the Zondo Commission, where the president himself said every recommendation will be implemented, and then many months and years later, nothing is happening.
Having said that, how crucial or critical would the current National Commissioner testifying tomorrow become?
It is very crucial, because what you have is a few things. One, the disbandment was supposed to have come from, according to Mkhwanazi, from the interministerial team that the president had actually put, that he was reporting to. There was disbandment without consultation with the National Commissioner, without even consultation with him. And he says he finds it odd because routinely he continued to report, and there has always been an extension to an extent that this task team was no longer only confined to KZN. It was looking at traditional leaders. It was looking at also what happened at a place like University of Forte, where 14 people are already have been arrested, and the thing has been rolled. So he was saying the successes, of course, which is still something that other people question, the successes themselves suggest that the disbandment appears to be one of those which you call political interference. Then you also have a former minister who the media has covered sufficiently to say before a certain person was arrested, there were frantic calls. And why would the former minister be making frantic calls to somebody who is about to be nabbed? So the issue here is the concept of interference seems to be something that he was complaining about, but we must also remember it was a cry for help.
We shall see, which, as we know, is three of the most loaded words in politics. Thank you so much indeed, everyone, for joining us. Professors, Advocate, thank you so much. Digital audience, appreciate your input on this. No doubt, it's a marathon we're going to be running. It's not a sprint, so let's hang in there. We'll be having these conversations periodically. Thank you so much indeed. Value added, no doubt. All right, before we go, here's my take. If you subvert the criminal justice system, you subvert the rule of law and constitutional democracy itself. Justice Madlanga putting this commission into perspective on day one of the hearings. The question now becomes, how malleable, how corrupt, how dysfunctional is the system? How prevalent are improper promises and inducements within the criminal justice system, corruptly influencing decision-making? Material questions, right? That needs answers. We've heard only 3 days of testimony from one person. And I know people have already formulated opinions, right? You want action. You want to see action. I understand it. It's human nature. It stems from our innate need for understanding of decision making. Our opinions are often shaped by a combination of internal factors like individual experiences as well as external influences. But at this stage, we have to recognize whether it's fact or feel. In terms of the calls for urgent action, there's a measure of solace. The Commission has various powers necessary to achieve its mandate on your screen. And this includes the power to refer matters for immediate criminal investigations and urgent decisions on prosecution, taking into account the nature of the allegations and the evidence the Commission will uncover. Let's see how it plays out. It's playing out in full glare. Perhaps that's a good thing, because as the saying goes, democracy dies in darkness. And that's my take. If you miss anything on this program, then be sure to watch this episode of It's Topical on YouTube, as well as SABC Plus. If you're watching a repeat of this program, then, as always, the news continues. Unwrap Africa up next with Tembekile, followed by G20 Focus with Tulisizo Similani, coming up at 8:30 tonight, where he'll be unpacking whether financial markets are now run with integrity after the 2008 financial crisis. You don't want to miss that. Stay tuned. From myself, Blaine Herman, and the rest of the team, take care. Bye-bye.